This courtroom moment out of Michigan is something you have to see to believe. In a heated Court of Appeals hearing, Mr. Kevin Dwayne Kraft attempts to challenge his child support case, not by disputing facts, but by questioning the very authority of the court itself. From the very beginning, he makes it clear that he does not recognize the court's jurisdiction, repeatedly asking whether it's a constitutional court of record, and demanding confirmation that the Constitution will be applied. Instead of addressing the child support issue directly, he shifts the argument towards sovereign citizen-style claims. He insists he is not a corporation, refuses to consent to do business with the state of Michigan, and argues that government agencies are actually for-profit entities. At one point, he even brings up business registration numbers in an attempt to prove the court system operates like a private company. The most dramatic moment comes when he challenges the court-ordered paternity test, claiming it violates his Fourth Amendment rights. He argues that being required to provide DNA is an unlawful search and that no contract exists giving the state authority over him. He repeatedly demands proof of a contract or promissory note, insisting that without his consent, the court has no power. Throughout the hearing, the judges remain composed and patient, allowing him to speak while carefully steering the discussion back to established law. As time runs out, the court assures him his written arguments will be reviewed, but makes it clear that the proceedings are governed by the Michigan Constitution, not personal interpretations of common law or maritime theory. The exchange highlights a growing trend of unconventional legal arguments colliding with real courtroom procedure, and shows exactly how appellate courts handle these kinds of challenges.
Mind putting your name on the record, please?
I'm the executor and sole beneficiary of the trust and estate of Mr. Kevin Dwayne Kraft, the legal persona. I am not here making a general appearance. I'm here by special divine appearance, judge, to settle a matter, to call for a constitutional court of record to ask for a summary judgment upon the truth and facts that I placed upon the record with my documents. I stand firmly on my rights, and I'm here to ask for the summary judgment, please.
You've asked for.
I do also have a few questions.
I understand you're pro se, and then therefore you get a little bit of leeway, but typically the judges don't answer questions. We're the ones who ask questions. This isn't like a trial court where it's a very kind of back and forth. The Court of Appeals is more structured in terms of the lawyers or parties come up, they make their arguments. The judges may or may not have questions for the person, and then it's submitted, and then we go back and discuss the matter, and then at some point in the future we come out with an opinion. So it is different in that respect than trial court.
Understood. But I am wondering if this is a court of constitution, and would the Constitution be applied in these proceedings?
The Court of Appeals, the Michigan Court of Appeals, is provided for under the state Constitution of 1963.
Is that a yes?
That's the answer I'm giving you.
Okay. I'm asking to verify to make sure these proceedings are legitimate. The Constitution has two jurisdictions: common law, admiralty law, or maritime tribunal. And I'm asking in which context would this court try to enforce jurisdiction on me?
We're acting under the state Constitution of Michigan of 1963.
Moving forward, I'm here to pretty much address the court's error for ignoring my motions. Notice of dismissal, default judgment under Federal Rule 55 was filed December 12, 2022. Under Federal Rule 55, if a party fails to respond to the defendants themselves, and this is confirmed by my affidavits and other means, the clerk must officially record a default judgment of that party. I filed several motions and they were ignored. That's why I'm here. In Haynes versus Kirnar, 404 U.S. 519, 1972, courts must be understanding and not easily reject motions from people just representing themselves. And that's what took place in this matter. In Article 1, Section 17 of the Michigan Constitution prevents courts from ignoring motions and guarantees that people have a fair chance to represent themselves in any argument and evidence. That did not happen. That's why we're here. The state ordered me to take a paternity test. And Monell versus Department of Social Services, which is a New York State case. The Supreme Court case established that municipalities' liability under the Section 1983 for constitutional violations in the context of child support cases, where the appellant argues that a warrant should be required for me obtaining genetic and biological material. I think it's very sensitive when a state injects an order asking me to give genetic and biological material without that's really sensitive material. It's not like a document or anything. That's personal biological material. That's why those specimens were not granted. That's why I deny any consent of any contract with the state or Title 4D agency to give away my biological and genetic material. That the case Monell is relevant because it underscores the importance to ensure that government agencies like the friend of the court on this context, these are for-profit agencies disguised as government agencies like the friend of the court, adhere to constitutional standards where collecting evidence potentially implying the need of procedure safeguards to protect individuals' Fourth Amendment. That's why I asked, with this a constitutional court. The asking for genetic material is protected by my Fourth Amendment right. The Fourth Amendment protects individuals from unreasonable searches and seizures and safeguards one's privacy and assurance that any such search is conducted within the boundaries of legal requirements. I see that they're not here today, and that's some questions that are raised, and those were my concerns. On August 11, 2022, the Kent County ordered an appointment for me for genetic and biological testing. In a testing laboratory, DNA Diagnostic Center is a business, and I can prove it's a business because I have their Dun and Bradstreet numbers, 877-184226 for the record. They also said, when I thought this was funny, the state of Michigan stated that it would pay the cost of the genetic test. And if I wasn't excluded, that I would be responsible for that cost. And with that being said, that set alarms. The state of Michigan is also a business. And with them fronting the cost for me, that presented an alarm for me because I don't choose the contract with the state of Michigan. I don't choose to do business with them in this regard with another business. It seems like a coercion of some sort for them to upfront the cost if I was going to be responsible. I do not consent to that business arrangement. The state, they failed to show a promissory note of a contract of any sort. I submitted documents, notice to the court to demand dismissal for lack of jurisdiction, demanded to see an open court evidence of personal and subject matter jurisdiction, and notice of court to refusing to appear voluntary. And I do not accept the offer to contract, and I do not consent to these proceedings. That affidavit or notice to motion was submitted on November 28th, 2022. So again, I'm just bringing up the point that I submitted numerous of documents asking for clear evidence or asking for due process, also asking for quite frankly, to be transparent with what's happening. And I believe I deserve the right to see in writing what gives them the authority and what contract am I entering. I want full disclosure. Burns 322 BR 719, a creditor must provide proper documentation such as a promissory note, contract to substantiate a debt or court claim. They did not. More documents I found. Affidavit inserting corporate nature of government entities. I submitted that document because I'm concerned that these are for-profit businesses disguised as government agencies. You know, I have proof. Kent County Court, Dun and Bradstreet number for the record, 152906082. Kent County Friend of the Court, Dun and Bradstreet number, 6088333133. State of Michigan, Dun and Bradstreet number, 504698428. These are businesses. I would like to state for the record that I am not a corporation. I'm a living, breathing person, human being. But these being businesses, they have to abide by the same rules as other businesses. And may I give an example? For example, McDonald's. McDonald's can't force me to eat their Big Macs. They need my consent. None of these businesses that I've mentioned have my consent to do business with them. Section 458 of the Social Security Act, incentive payments to state. It's a conflict of interest. And it's my argument right here, right now, that the state incentivizes them for, it incentivizes them to collect more child support. The main argument I have here and for you guys is full disclosure. You know, it seems like they enter me in a contract without my consent, without full disclosure, and that's the problem here. You know, I'm here to argue subject matter and lack of jurisdiction. No evidence was established in my involvement of a common law crime or damages, and I did not commit any common law crime. Notice of court to refusing to appear voluntary, and I do not accept these contracts, and I do not consent to these proceedings was another motion or notice to motion that I submitted 11/28/22. And it's basically evidence is they didn't provide any evidence of an injury or injured party. And
Mr. Kraft, you're out of time. We understand that you raise issues of disclosure,
yes,
jurisdiction, remedy, and as I indicated, your brief, as with all the appellants and appellees we have here today, the briefs that you submit are kind of the key issue or the key tool that we use to resolve cases. And so I just want you to know, we have your brief.
Mm-hmm.
We're going to go back. We've had research attorneys look at it. We're going to look at it again. We're going to discuss your case. And then you'll get an opinion from us sometime within the next few weeks.
If I may, one last thing.
You've got, you can do it in 20 seconds.
I can. The government must prove charges beyond a reasonable doubt with clear evidence, especially when making the claims against someone. And I'm asking you guys right here, right now, they did not provide any evidence against me. And I will ask you to dismiss this without prejudice.
In this Michigan Court of Appeals hearing, the courtroom becomes the stage for an unusual legal confrontation. The case centers on Mr. Kevin Dwayne Kraft, who is facing child support obligations, but rather than addressing the case directly, he challenges the authority of the court itself. From the very beginning, he makes it clear that he does not recognize the court's jurisdiction, repeatedly asking if it is a constitutional court of record and whether the Constitution will be applied. His approach immediately sets the tone for a tense and unconventional hearing. Mr. Kraft's arguments reflect the philosophy often associated with the sovereign citizen movement. He insists he is not a corporation and refuses to do business with the state, claiming that he has not consented to any contractual relationship with government agencies or the state of Michigan. Throughout the hearing, he attempts to frame the court as a business entity that operates like a for-profit corporation, asserting that it must obtain consent from individuals before taking any legal actions. He even provides Dun and Bradstreet registration numbers for entities like the Kent County Court and the Friend of the Court in an effort to prove his point. A major focus of the hearing is the court-ordered paternity test. Mr. Kraft claims that requiring him to submit DNA violates his Fourth Amendment rights. He argues that being compelled to provide genetic and biological material is an unlawful search because it is done without a warrant, and he insists that the state has no legal authority to enforce this order without a formal contract. He repeatedly demands to see a promissory note or some other document proving the state's authority, arguing that full disclosure and consent are required before any government action can be legitimate. Throughout his argument, Mr. Kraft asserts that the court has ignored his motions for dismissal and default judgment. He cites legal rules and constitutional provisions, claiming that they guarantee him the right to fully represent himself and receive due process. He emphasizes that no evidence of a common law crime or damages has been presented against him, arguing that the case should therefore be dismissed entirely. His statements range from legalistic citations to broader philosophical arguments about the nature of government authority, creating a complex and often confusing web of claims. Despite the unusual and lengthy nature of Mr. Kraft's arguments, the judges maintain a composed and professional demeanor. They allow him to speak, ensuring he has the opportunity to present his position, but they also make it clear that the court operates according to established law, not individual interpretations. When his arguments begin to exceed his allotted time, the judge steps in, reminding him of the procedural rules and assuring him that his written brief will be reviewed. This careful balance between patience and authority highlights how appellate courts manage unconventional defenses while upholding the legal process. The host of the video expresses frustration at Mr. Kraft's approach, calling his arguments delusional and suggesting that they are a transparent attempt to evade child support responsibilities. The host underscores the unusual nature of the hearing, noting that while defendants often challenge aspects of their cases, few do so by questioning the legitimacy of the legal system itself. Mr. Kraft's insistence on sovereign citizen claims, his focus on alleged contractual requirements, and his repeated questioning of the court's jurisdiction make this hearing stand out as an extraordinary example of legal defiance. The paternity test argument continues to dominate the proceedings. Mr. Kraft repeatedly challenges the legitimacy of the state's order, asserting that without a contract or promissory note, the testing center and the government have no authority over him. He frames the DNA testing as part of a broader business transaction in which he has not consented to participate. This line of argument, though rejected by the court, illustrates the lengths to which individuals can go when they attempt to use unconventional legal theories to challenge established procedures. Mr. Kraft also spends time discussing the corporate nature of government agencies. He claims that courts, county offices, and other entities operate as profit-driven businesses and therefore must comply with the same rules as private corporations. By citing registration numbers and referencing corporate documentation, he attempts to blur the line between public authority and private business, arguing that government agencies cannot take action without the explicit consent of the individual involved. Despite these arguments, the court repeatedly clarifies that the proceedings are governed by the Michigan Constitution and the applicable laws of the state. Judges explain that personal interpretations of common law or maritime law cannot override the authority of the court. They make it clear that all legal procedures, including child support enforcement and paternity testing, are conducted under established law, and that attempts to bypass these rules through unconventional arguments will not be accepted. Throughout the hearing, Mr. Kraft oscillates between detailed legal references and broader claims about the illegitimacy of government authority. He challenges motions, questions constitutional authority, and disputes the validity of the court's procedures. Yet, despite his persistence, the court maintains control, demonstrating how patience and adherence to the rule of law are critical in managing complex or unconventional cases. The exchange between Mr. Kraft and the court captures a broader trend in the legal system, the clash between unconventional legal theories and structured courtroom procedures. Many viewers will recognize this as an example of the limits of sovereign citizen arguments, showing that while individuals may attempt to use complex reasoning to evade responsibilities, courts are equipped to respond with precision and authority. The case also highlights the importance of procedure, evidence, and the Constitution in resolving disputes, no matter how creative or elaborate the arguments presented may be. As the hearing progresses, it becomes evident that while Mr. Kraft has been given every opportunity to present his perspective, the court's role is to uphold the law. The judges listen carefully, review his arguments, and maintain order, ensuring that the legal process is followed. Ultimately, the hearing demonstrates the tension between personal interpretations of the law and the authority of judicial systems, offering a detailed look at how appellate courts navigate complex challenges while ensuring fairness, due process, and adherence to established law. For viewer, this hearing is more than a legal dispute. It is a window into the clash between individual belief systems and structured legal authority. From debates about jurisdiction and constitutional interpretation to arguments about contracts, DNA testing, and corporate structures, the case provides insight into the intricate dance between unconventional legal reasoning and the steadfast application of the law. It is a story of persistence, defiance, and the enduring framework of the judicial system, showing both the limitations of creative legal arguments and the measured response of courts tasked with upholding justice. By the conclusion of the hearing, it is clear that Mr. Kraft's arguments, though lengthy and complex, do not alter the court's approach. Child support obligations and legal procedures continue under the authority of the Michigan Constitution, illustrating the boundaries within which citizens must operate, regardless of their interpretations of law. The case stands as a striking example of courtroom dynamics when unconventional theories meet established legal frameworks, and serves as both a cautionary tale and a compelling courtroom drama for anyone interested in legal strategy, constitutional law, and the real-world application of justice.